So our record has started. I am here with the men's volleyball coach, Mike Hubicki. This is our DC Coaches Series, just to have the opportunity for some incoming athletes or prospective recruits to have their questions answered. So I actually have a list of questions that we've worked through in previous series, but just to update things, we're going to go through this again. So you're all good?
Great, let's go.
Okay, so question number one starts off pretty generic, but it's a question that comes up a lot, and it's just, can you describe what a typical week for the men's volleyball team would be like once you guys kind of hit your season and start running through it?
Yeah, so obviously this is going back 2 years ago. Last year was an atypical year with COVID. But normally once we pick the team, which is kind of mid-September, we have 4 practices a week scheduled. We have gym time. So it's Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, 5 to 7, and then Wednesday, 7 to 9 p.m. And we flip-flop with the women's volleyball team on alternate times in the gym with that. And that's our practices. We also have ETS, Elite Training System. So all of the guys work with the sport-specific coaches on a volleyball exercise routine for strength and conditioning, mostly strength and injury prevention, which is really awesome. So sometimes during once the league starts and we start playing games, which sometimes we have 2-3 games in a week. And if we go to Ottawa as an example, we might have games on Friday night, Saturday, or Saturday night, Sunday. So we might take a day off of our practice, and then we'll do like a team recuperation or team recovery event. Once the league starts, we've got 9 games, and that's usually end of October to very early December. Then we have most of December off. And then in January, we go to a tournament, usually at Niagara. And then we'll start our second half, and that's again really packed full of games in January and into February. Then OCs are mid-February. And last year, or 2 years ago, we actually qualified for nationals, which was in March out in Fredericton. And I think last year and maybe this year coming up, it might be Limoilou in Quebec. So also during the week, sometimes we're going to have a get together in the team room where we've got a large screen TV. We might be scouting a team. So before that game, we'll go over some of their tendencies and show what to expect when that team's on the court and kind of game plan our strategies so that the coaching staff can share with the athletes what we want to do, what we're trying to accomplish. And then obviously the guys are going to classes all through the week, and that's super important. It's if a class and a practice conflict, then we say go to your class. If it's an important part of the season, then ask the prof if you can get the work to either do it ahead of time or afterwards. And sometimes with tests and exams, we can also get a proctor, and then we can do those if we're out on the road or something like that. So, but school's first, sports second. But when the guys are in the groove, they're having a lot of fun, and it's lots of volleyball every week.
A lot of them just hang around campus all day waiting for practice at the end. Like I catch them hanging out in your team room as well. Just they might be studying or hanging out in between classes and stuff like that. So it's definitely a spot for them.
Yeah, and also there's the varsity study lounge, which is just upstairs as well, which is a really nice room with leather couches. It's super comfortable. It's very private. And the varsity athletes at Durham and Ontario Tech share that space. So you can also meet some new people, and it's a really awesome experience.
Zeroing in onto something a bit more specific, but similar premise of a question is, what are practices like with your team? So maybe starting from when players might arrive and any AT stuff they have to deal with all the way to the end of practice.
Sure. So our practices are 2-hour slots, and it's awesome at Durham because Durham College has athletic staff. So the staff comes in, they prep the court for us. If there's a curtain to split up the big gym, they do all that. I let them know ahead of time if we want any practice equipment like hitting boxes or setting hoops or hitting hitting machine, things like that. Then they'll have all that ready to go. The ball, like last year, the balls were all sterilized. They took care of everything. There was they met us right at the door with temperature. They have a questionnaire. So I imagine we'll probably do that again this year. But so the guys come in and they don't have to worry about anything. We have our own trainer and our own therapist on the team. They come to practice right at the very beginning. So if someone needs to be taped up or some ice, or they want to have something looked at, our own team therapist and trainer are there to take care of them. And then we start in. And normally we start off with sort of a kind of a fun 5-6 minutes of something to loosen the guys up. Maybe like we have a couple of really fun volleyball warm-up games, and some of them we got from Team Canada, and are, you know, they're competitive, but they're really get more to get you talking, communicating, get your heart rate up, your cardiovascular up, and start to gently stretch out. And then typically we'll go right into game-like drills. So we'll start with everything's over the net. We don't do anything on one side of the net, or very, very little, unless it's a really super specific skill that we're trying to develop. Everything's over the net and game speed, as much game speed as we can. And we encourage the guys to really go hard and to push themselves to the point of making you know, if they fail at something new, that's perfectly fine. You know, we really only ever get down on anybody if they give up. You know, so there's two things you can control: attitude and effort, and that's what we're really promoting. Then usually in the middle part of the practice, we're going to do something, maybe a new tactic or a new strategy that we're working on. So we might be starting to run pipe balls or pick balls out of the back row, doing a tandem, or you know, some defensive coverage schemes that are maybe a little bit different. If we know that there's the next team up has got a really powerful right side attack, as an example, we might practice that. And usually the last 45 minutes is game scrimmaging, where we might have some wash drills where we want to work on a specific tactic or a specific strategy in the game, and that's the only way you can score a point to get out of the wash is if you do that particular thing. As an example, run a big ball, which is a fast tempo back row attack at a 6-back. So and then after that, usually our therapist will lead us in a cool down. So some stretching, cool down, and then just a little debrief at the end of the practice with the guys, just making sure everybody's on track for the rest of the week. If there's anybody that can't make a practice, everyone knows that when the games are, what to expect. So it's a lot of communication, and the guys talk a lot. We've already got a WhatsApp group started for next year. So all the recruits, we're already, I think there's eight to 10 guys were already on the WhatsApp for next year, and they're talking back and forth, and as I'm actually getting past that answer, but it all just sort of flows.
It all connects. It all connects.
One to the next, right? So yeah, so that's a typical practice. It's you know, the beginning of the year, they're more individual skills, and then as we move into competition phase, we're going to be looking at getting ready for specific games, specific opponents, and setting ourselves up for success.
And then kind of leading into the next question, just asking, what are the facilities like that your team gets to utilize? I was just going to mention too, in terms of your practices, that I know a lot of the athletes love to use the cold tubs and stuff after everything. So there's that AT facility that's available to them, their team rooms, their gymnasium. Can you just kind of give a little bit of the specifics and the benefits of the facilities at DC?
Yeah, and I've coached at a few universities, and I've been to and colleges, obviously, and played in probably close to 20. And Durham is right up at the very top for all of our facilities, from the gym, which is your background, which is a fantastic home gym to play in. We get great crowds out. We have fan appreciation night with the noisemakers and pots and pans and drums and things like that. It's a super great arena, a court to play in. The team has its own team room. Each guy has his locker with his name on it. He has his uniforms in there. The laundry gets done for them. There's a shower there, big screen TV. Yeah, like you say, Jordan, they can go in anytime during the day. They could take a rest. They could study. They could watch some film. Go watch the big screen TV. The athletic therapy department is second to none with as you said, the ice tanks, the therapy tables, massage. It's unbelievable. It's basically semi-pro. Then there's mental health. There's the clinic for doctor, family doctor kinds of things on campus. All of the support that they could want or ask for is all right there. If they're staying in residence, they can eat some of their meals in residence, or they can do their own food. Or a lot of the guys in second year and up, they get apartments together, houses together, and they're moving around. And it's a team. It's basically a family, and that's a really great thing about playing varsity, and especially the way we do it at Durham. We start the year before, and then all through the summer we get the guys together, and we've been doing it on Zoom. But as soon as we can, we're going to get back on the court and probably have a beach volleyball day this summer, maybe in Coburg like we've done in the past few years, and get all the guys together before the season.
Things are definitely trending in the right direction, that things will start to open up. So those opportunities to get in early will be coming, and that's definitely a good step.
Yeah, we can't wait. Yeah.
The next question deals with athletic therapy, which I think we've already touched on a little bit, but I'll just mention that it's pretty unique for a college program that you have two ATs embedded with your team, a student therapist and an athletic trainer, both embedded with your team. Each team gets two of these, which are students coming in from Sheridan and Ontario Tech. And they travel with you, they're at practices, they're everywhere. And then when other things come up, that's when your team will get to utilize our athletic therapy staff in terms of Saul and Allison and Jess anytime she jumps over from Ontario Tech as well. Can you maybe just touch on some of the experiences from your team in utilizing your embedded trainers and then also the AT staff?
Yeah, so one institution I coached, that I won't mention any names, but we had to basically beg to get an athletic therapist to come to our games. And when we went on the road, they gave us some tape to take. And we had to use the other school's therapist, but we had to bring our own tape. And Durham is exactly the opposite. And for us, or as well as our opponents. So say our opponents don't have a therapist traveling with them, then whoever is going to be our team trainer, therapist, or someone like Saul or Allison or one of their staff from the school are going to be there during the game to help out. But we had sometimes a guy might twist an ankle or pop a finger kind of thing, or maybe have some mild shin splints, even a stomach, like it's kind of a stomach ailment. They eat the wrong thing in the day, and they can talk to our training staff and get some help, and it's really great for injury prevention, and that's our number one focus, is on preventing any injuries that you can prevent. Of course, there's going to be things that happen. It's a sport, and it's not contact body to body, but it's body to ball. And sometimes it's body to body close to the net, or there might be a collision and things like that. So another thing that Durham is really advanced on and super careful with is concussions. So every athlete does a baseline. They got a baseline concussion protocol, so that if we notice that they've taken a hit, or they've been bumped, jarred, and we notice they're a little groggy, then we right away bring them out, and then our staff has got a benchmark baseline that they can assess them against, and then they can determine if they do have some concussion-like symptoms, and then we can start the protocol of back to recovery. which is absolutely critical. It's really devastating. A concussion, how devastating it can be on especially young athletes. And I've heard of some people that they've had to quit school and things. So we take it very, very seriously, and our staff are highly skilled at spotting issues and then dealing with them. And then in between practices and games, as you said, the therapy staff, the therapy facilities, the massage, ice tanks, treatments are again amazing. And as long as you're a varsity athlete, it doesn't cost anything, which is incredible.
Yeah, there's a lot of up and down and diving and falls and stuff, and
Yeah.
you come watch your team play and they're going all out. So
Oh,
when you're
totally.
playing that way,
Yeah.
you're gonna you're gonna need some recovery after, that's for sure.
Yeah, and as the coach too, I take recovery, excuse me, very seriously, and that's why I'm always monitoring their fitness and the way that they're rebounding from a hard practice where we did a lot of jumping. So we say, okay, well, this next practice we're going to do more groundwork and like digging balls and court coverage and things like that, and give the guys a little bit of a break on their legs and joints. Yeah.
So following that up, you also touched on this a little bit already, but a question that's come up a few times in the sessions we've done is just how do student athletes deal with academic conflicts? So something might come up where, like you mentioned, you guys are traveling to Ottawa and they're going to have to miss a class, or if there's a test on a certain day that you guys will be on the road for a
Yeah.
tournament. How do they deal with that, and what ways does the varsity support system try and help them get through those academic conflicts?
Yeah, so the very first thing, Jordan, is that each person on the team has to take responsibility for their own actions. They have to take responsibility to communicate with their professors, with their lab teachers, with their technicians, their ETs, or whatever. It's their responsibility. We don't do that, and nor should we. These are young men, young adults, and they've got to take responsibility. When they do that, we find that 9.9 times out of 10, that teacher, professor, lab person is going to support them and make any adjustment that they can to help that athlete make an important practice or a game or a road trip. Whether that's a lab or a test, a quiz, an exam. And there's ways to deliver them on the road. I mentioned a proctor. So when we went to nationals in Fredericton, our athletic director was a proctor for one of our athletes who had a final exam or a midterm exam. And, so it ended up working out fine. Yeah. But they have to take responsibility.
Yeah. And we provide them with a letter for them to give to their teachers at the beginning of the year, because that communication is just probably the most important part of it. Like, I always say the greatest thing about sports is we know what the schedule is. Like, we get the schedule well ahead of time. So
Yeah.
that first minute that you get in there to the class, you can say, hey, teach, like, here's my schedule. I'm a student athlete. If there's any conflicts or I might be on the road, I might miss a class. They're going to know that well ahead of time. And then that's when they're able to have a little bit more forgiveness and a little bit more help for you, rather than, coming to them and it's like, sorry, I'm on a bus the next morning. That's not going to fly as much.
Yeah. Yeah. Failing to prepare is preparing to fail. Yeah.
And then on top of that, we do have our academic support system through Mike Duggan, part of our athletic staff, that if any students are maybe falling behind or struggling a little bit, he can connect them with peer tutoring or our SALs. And like you mentioned, we have our academic varsity success room, which is a place that they can go and get away and study for a bit. And it's mandatory to be a quiet zone in there. So there's definitely some spaces for them.
Yeah, in the school, there's privacy restrictions on the amount of information that I can have as a coach. So I don't know the marks as an example, but I know if somebody's struggling and in what areas. And if somebody doesn't come to me, then I can go to our staff or a teammate or the captain, and work with that person to help them get some support. because quite often there's been a guy in second or third year or somebody else who's been in the program that they're in, and they know what to expect. They've been there, done it.
Moving from that, talking a bit more about sport specific stuff and for recruits, a question that we've had from a lot of maybe club players that are interested in joining or people that might be graduating high school is kind of what is something sport specific that they can work on maybe for that last year before they enter college athletics?
Yeah, so for guys coming into university, they may have from a physiological perspective, they may have kind of hit puberty, and they can start getting into some weight training. But if they haven't, then they got to be really careful that they're not going to get into weight training. So that's something that's really specific for each individual athlete. There's a lot of wear and tear on your body when you play September, October, November, this part of December, January, February, maybe into March. Like 7 solid months of 4 to 5 times on a court a week it can be hard on your body. So preparing physically, I think is a pretty easy thing for high school students to do. So they can reach out to me or Saul if they know they're coming and get a routine to help them work towards getting strength training, conditioning, maybe a little bit of cardio. Like cardio is not a huge part of volleyball because it's such a sprint sport. It's more of an anaerobic sport than aerobic sport, but you do have to be in shape. And especially when you get into these long 5 setters, that's the team who is in shape is going to come out on top because they make fewer mistakes. Skill wise, play as much as you can, volleyball, court volleyball, beach volleyball, and work on the things that you're weak at. Don't always keep doing the same thing. If you have a good spin serve or a good float serve, just work on it enough to keep it proficient. And when you get into the next level, you're going to have to maybe change a few things anyway. Work on the stuff that you need work at. Because when you come to a practice, you want to be able to do every single aspect of the game so that you're not the person that makes a drill stop, right? Sometimes we call it a drill killer. And if a person has one particular skill that they just haven't gotten good at, sometimes we have to take them out of the drill and say, all you're going to work on right now is forearm passing. That's all we're going to work on the rest of this practice until you start getting the muscle memory and things like that. Mentally, it's really important too that the athletes can kind of visualize where they want to be so that they see that there's a goal for high school. And it's not just getting through high school. It's, I got to get through high school. I want to do well at high school. Because I got a goal. I have a place I want to be. I have a team I want to make, get on, a program I want to do well at, and then set you up for the rest of your life. A huge thing that we always look for when we scout new athletes is attitude. Excuse me. And as I said before, there's 2 things an athlete can control well, 3: attitude, effort, and their serve. So if we see an athlete, fail on their serve, like hit it in the net, hit it out, and do it more than once, and then they get down on themselves, that's a sign to us that athlete is weak, mentally weak on themselves, and they get down on themselves, which means that they might get down on their teammates. So it's that chemistry, right? Volleyball is a huge momentum sport, and chemistry is absolutely critical. And so as a coach, when we're looking at athletes, we're looking at, are they having fun? Do they have a smile on their face? Are they joyful? Are they looking around and supporting their other athletes and making a positive contribution to the fans? Are they grateful? Are they grateful to be there? These are all things that you kind of take for granted. But when you come across a person that doesn't do that, then they can be an issue for the rest of the people on the team. So be mentally strong, enjoy the game, And after people leave the sport at our level, we want them to continue to play or coach. And a lot of the young men that come into the program, they want to talk about coaching, and I'm 100% supportive of anybody that's interested is getting into coaching any sport at any level. It's an incredible way to give back and very, very rewarding.
I feel like you touched on a little bit of our next question as well, so I might skip over that one. It was just asking what do you look for when you have the opportunity to go see people play, whether they're playing for their high school and club like that. And I think you touching on, having an eye on their attitude and their interaction with their teammates. I think a few coaches have mentioned that as well, that's such a key thing when you go for a scouting trip and go look at a specific athlete.
Yeah, for sure.
So
And we also talk to their teachers sometimes or their past coaches. We don't typically talk to parents, but
they have a bit of a skewed view, I would say.
a little bit of a skewed view, a bit of prejudice there, yeah, a bit of bias, yeah.
So jumping over to the next question then, having been at DC for a few years now and having the opportunity to lead a team to a national championship appearance during our last season in 2019-20. Can you just touch on maybe a few of the things that stand out about Durham College as an athletic institution for student athletes coming in?
Yeah, and again, this is based on personal experience with other institutions, is that the athletic department at Durham College is second to none. Ken Babcock, his leadership, the athletic director, is really incredible, and he is really so professional with the way that he runs the department and the staff he hires for people like you who are supporting us and doing the work that we do, plus the athletes and getting the social media part of it, and creating something that these athletes can be proud of. Right? It's like we kind of again take it for granted at Durham, but so many places don't do it. I had to run a Facebook page for a team that I coached. The school wouldn't give us any time or any help. So I had to do it, and that's a small thing to some people, but it's a huge thing to the athletes and to the coaches, because then we can focus on what's most important, and that's preparing athletes to be the best they can be, physically, mentally, tactically for the games, and allow them to thrive in school, so they don't get down on themselves. And then the facilities again are second to none. The support for the athletes, every athlete on a road trip, as well as coaches and trainers, gets meal money, and it's good money. It's enough money to buy a nice meal, and if it's an overnighter, then it's enough money for a dinner and a breakfast, and that was unheard of where I was before. The kit too that Durham gets, sponsors with Adidas. The kits is always really great. This shirt I'm wearing, I think, is from 4 years ago, and it's green. It doesn't look green, but it's kind of one of our throwback jerseys. But yeah, the department is really second to none, and it's a first class operation at Durham College for sure.
And I know from my experiences too, like I see that with the athletes and how much they appreciate the things we do for them. When I do certain things, I always try and keep in mind that, I'm not necessarily doing this for community outreach or for recruiting students for the school and stuff like that. I'm really doing these things specifically for the student athletes. That's who we're catering to. We want to make sure that their experience is the absolute best it can be for the 1, 2, 3, 4 years that they're there. And every year, we try and come up with things to make that experience even better, from upgrading the facilities to what we can do for away games, the tournaments we host. There's so much that goes into it that, like you said, we want to try and make it the focus of their time, the sports, and then we'll provide all the extras. It's really, as you mentioned, our athletic director, Ken Babcock, has that kind of NCAA mentality. You know, we may not have NCAA money, but we want to try and produce an NCAA product.
Yeah, well, and Durham definitely does. Yeah, for sure.
And that just leads into the last question, which is just any final tips that you have for anybody that's interested in joining college athletics as they're coming in. Just kind of the last wrap up of any last suggestions or pieces of advice.
Yeah, so don't hesitate to email me or to call me to set up a Zoom call. I think I've done probably 25, 28 Zoom calls with athletes and sometimes athletes and their parents, especially the guys that are in grade 11 now and they're not coming to 2022. You know, quite often we'll have a Zoom call with them, and it doesn't, like, I don't care if you know Durham isn't your first choice, but if you want to go and play volleyball at a college or university, and I've been doing it for 12 years, so and you know I've gone to university and I know what it's like. And I had a daughter that went to Sheridan and U of T and played varsity volleyball. So, you know, I coach lots of young people. It's get as much, ask as many questions as you can, get as much input as you can, make informed decisions as best as you can, and know that, you know, something could easily change down the road. But try to find a program that you really enjoy. And at college, at Durham College, there's so many great programs that you can do in a year, 2 years, 3 years. Then, you know, if you want to go for extra fourth or fifth, which a lot of people do because they just love the experience so much. And college is more affordable than university. So you could learn numerous skills. And then after you leave college and you've finished your varsity career, boom, you get hired. So with like as a we had James Hurt, who was a middle for 2 years, and you know we were hoping he was going to come back this year, and he got a great job welding. Will Hart, he did his 2 years of sports management, and he's going to graduate now and has a job up in Ottawa. So it's, you know, we hope, we love when the athletes stay and participate in sports and schooling, but we're super thrilled too when they decide that, you know, this is my time. I'm gonna leave academics now, and I'm gonna join the real world and get a job and start to contribute. And a lot of them go into club ball. You know, they coach at club and make a huge contribution that way. So I think that's it. Is just don't be shy. Reach out, talk to people, athletes, coaches, administrators. We've got Mike Duggan, you, right? There's lots of resources around that people can talk to.
You just mentioning James there in the welding program too. Like I feel like we've had so many athletes recently, probably within the last 2 or 3 years, jumping into those trade programs. And with the expansion that's going on at the Whitby campus, I only imagine it's going to be more. Okay, so thank you very much. That'll
Thank you,
wrap it up.
Jordan.